Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. I always like to do a little meteorological blurb. I'm looking at my thing here. It's 97 degrees. I don't know how warm it is in Alabama, where Beth is from. I'm now, I've been actually, Beth and I have been chatting for a little bit for the last, not that I'm keeping track, but the last 67 minutes, we've been getting to know each other. So I'm with Beth Pellino Dudzik, and she's an author and a musician, and she knows all about the grease trucks at Rutgers University, which kind of blew me away because how could she possibly know about that? But Beth is from the Bronx and did a stint in Hawaii, which she'll talk about that a little bit. And came back to Westchester and now is in Alabama and loves college football and professional football. So we've been talking before you even went on air. And she's also the author of the Perfection Saga, book one, Playing Hard, which I'm showing, and then book two, Playing High, Perfection Saga, book two, and there's three, four, five more to come. So she's prolific, and she's got a music in there, and she's self-published, and that is this great bond that we share because I'm a self-published guy too. I always hold up. There's a tortoise in my hair, Journey to Spirit. Self-published. That's our world. So this is the time I've spent with you has been absolutely fabulous, Beth, and
Well,
and
thank
so much,
you.
yeah, so much commonality. But we gotta do this because you gotta
Right.
you gotta run and
Just by the way, we're under a heat advisory in Alabama, so it's hot here
it's
too.
hot. It's hot. I stuck my head out before. It,
Yeah,
it, you know what? It's really, and I use the F word. I
yeah,
very rarely use that to describe heat, but it's effing
it
hot.
is. I know.
It's hot. So my monologue is done.
Okay,
Why don't you do a little background, and then we're going to jump into your world of writing and music
okay.
and stuff. Take it away, Beth.
Well, I was a pro, my great grandparents came over here, the Great Migration, and I was born in the Bronx because that's where both sides of my family ended up. And I I grew up with being part of two really great ethnic groups, half Italian Catholic, we have to throw that in, and my mother is Jewish and big Jewish family. My grandmother wasn't kosher, but we pretended at times, and so I grew up in a wonderful world of having these two large families, and it was wonderful. And when I was I went to kindergarten in the Bronx, and then we moved to Westchester. Everybody migrated to Long Island, and my mother said, I don't like it. It's too flat. So we moved to Westchester. And I lived there for all of my life except for 2 years. And I hated my father for doing this. He moved us to Orlando when Disney World opened because him and his sister were going to go into business. Big mistake. And then we moved back and we lived in Yonkers, which is very close to the Bronx border, and grew up there. And that was wonderful because then I was a teenager at 14, 15, taking the train and subway, or the bus and subway into Manhattan to see, I don't know, Bowie, the Stones, and Zeppelin, and tickets were cheap. And New York used to have concerts in Central Park. So it was just something, I hooked up with a bunch of friends that music was important, and we would go see whoever we wanted to go see. And then I had a boyfriend who's still a very good friend of mine. Um, and he was like one of the only I dated maybe two Jewish guys. Jewish guys and Italian guys I didn't date. So I'm putting it out there. But I was probably in, well, I was in about 12th grade. I was a senior, and he was a roadie for the number one band in the New York, New Jersey, and I'm sure you remember, the club scene was very, very big. And they advertised on like WPLJ, WNEW, all that, because the clubs were what everybody did. So he was a roadie with the band that everybody would go see. So those guys became my friends. And how cool is it for you to be 17, 18, hanging out with, the number one place? So they used to play at Tuesdays during that time, Glen Island Casino, which, big band era, everything, was the place to be. They had three bands and it was on the water. I mean, there was everything like, yeah, party, party, party. So I went every Tuesday, and if that band was playing, my name was always at the door. Never had to worry about getting in. And so I would be hanging out, and you would meet other people in other bands. And that's what started to happen. And I met a guy from another band that was fairly popular. And he became my boyfriend, and it was a living situation. And then the real stuff started happening with, being back then you were somebody's girlfriend and you were untouchable by anybody else except for the drunks in the bar. But in the bands knew, like, okay, that's so and so's girlfriend, blah 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 blah. Now that would have been very offensive. I still to this day I'm not offended by it. It's just the way it was. Um, and you live a life of waking up late, getting ready, being at the place where they were playing by like 6 o'clock because everybody had to set up. You stay late till about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and it starts all over again. I was also going to school, so it made it just a little bit, but I went to every gig, and you meet again other bands and this and that, and it was a scene. It was a lot of fun. Um, got into a couple of fights. Admittedly, I kind of don't. It's like don't do it to this girl. And and then I got to a point where I knew, and I was still. I had one foot still in it, but I knew that I needed to. I don't want to say grow up because I was already grown up, but I knew I needed to make a life for myself. And I wasn't I didn't want to be somebody's girlfriend doing nothing all the time. So yeah, then I had to take a break, and we that person that I lived with, we kind of separated. Things happened with the band. He wanted to move to Florida because his mother had just passed, and it was his father and his sister. And I said, I don't want to be 19 years old and be somebody's wife because it would have had to been that way. And I said, yeah, no, I'm staying. I'm staying. And so then my life took a little different trajectory. And honestly, I was dating this guy, never wanted to date him, always told him no, just like my ex-husband, same thing. And he turned out to be an abusive person. And I think every woman, and maybe not every woman, but we experience it. And it was verbal, it was psychological, and it did get physical. Unfortunately for him, he knew who my father was, and that was a big mistake because, yeah, it went down. So, that was one thing. And I guess maybe because I was dating musicians and people like that, that I worked in a big Ed accounting firm, and my ex-husband was on me for 5 years, and I was like, oh my God, no. You are you are the typical accountant. There's nothing about you that I want to date. For some strange reason, Calvin, I don't know. We had a bet against the he was a cowboy fan. It was a giant cowboy bet. I lost, and I was supposed to buy him lunch. I don't know how it flipped on me, but it flipped. And he was whining and dining me. He took me to the Rainbow Room. He took me to, the Four Seasons and all the fancy restaurants. And then he got a job in Hawaii. And I was like, and we were dating, but we knew at the accounting firm, they didn't want people dating. So he left, so it wasn't a problem. And I had a great job. I had a great gig. And he came back a couple of times, and that bad boyfriend was stalking me, and he was stalking me for a long time. So when he asked me to move to Hawaii, I said yes, because I wanted to get away from the stalker. I did not want to leave my family. When I was on the plane going to Hawaii, I was like, what did I just do? I'm going to miss my family. And my father gave me a return ticket for a year later. They held my job open for me, and they're like, you're going to be back. And I was. And I said to him, I lived here for a year. I'm not loving it like you are. And I don't know how he got my phone number, but the stalker called that home number in Hawaii,
Wow.
and he said, I'll be waiting for you. And that changed my mindset. And so my ex-husband proposed, we got married. My parents said, you can back out of this right now. And I said, we're having a reception at the Holly Kalani Hotel, which is like the most expensive hotel. And I said, I don't know how we back out of this. I said, I got to go through with it. So I did. And I really tried, Calvin. Sometimes you say, is it me? Am I missing something? And so I used that logic. And then I knew I wanted to have children. Unfortunately, he was the father of those children. But my children, I had three girls in a 6-year period, and said after when I was pregnant with the third, I said, oh my God, I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to make sure that it never happens again. And that happened. But my daughters were, and I always say I was able to stay at home with them. They were the best creation I ever did, and also the best job I ever had. Um, and I'm a very gushy mom to them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, mom, we love you too." And now I have a granddaughter, which I was so like, oh my God, don't do it. I don't want it to age me. Once that child came into this world, and it was the daughter that I was like, oh my God, she should never have kids. She's a wonderful mother. And my granddaughter looks just like her when she was little. And it just pulls me to Portland all the time because I want to be with her. And she doesn't call me, she calls me Gigi. I said, I'm a Gigi. And, and in the midst of all this, I knew the universe guided me 3 years ago and said, do it, do it, do it, do it. And then it became a nonstop.
We're
Um,
talking this and we're talking this.
yes, it became a nonstop. You need to write it. And I was getting pictures when I went out. I was getting just these forces that were putting it in my face saying, no, no, you need to do this. So
Did you ever dream in a million years you'd be a writer and a prolific writer?
no, I knew I had the stories in me. See, that's the thing. It was like, why am I have a historical novel in me. I have, my next book will probably just be one book, but I was, because I work out every day, I was listening to my music and the song Evil Woman from Electric Light Orchestra came on. And bing, I said, oh my God, a story just came into my head. And it's going to be a great story, but it would have to be a series because of what the main subject of the book is. But so I got inspired by that song. The Perfection Saga, the historical novel, the next book I write were all in my head for 25 years. And it was like, which one is going to make? And it was the rock and roll. And I think because I was in touch with a lot of friends from that era, that started becoming very much in my mind. So that's why I wrote it. And it's a story that is it goes through the highs and lows of music. And I take you from the 70s and move you into the 2000s and everything that changed in the music scene, because it did. And when I looked at the insights, because everybody is telling me on my team, your books are geared for 45 to, on. And then when I looked at my insights on threads, the main group is the 24 to 35 group because they want that retro. And I said, we need to change our marketing plan up a little bit because it's the younger generation that is very interested in it. So that I found to be very interesting.
Okay. Um, I always get asked this. You know, your books here,
Hmm.
are there some elements of biographical versus fiction?
There are parts of it's fiction for the most part, but I have put in like real things that were said to me, real things that happened to me, and I fictionalize them. But um the main thing, and I say this, that the female character Gina, which, in a million years, I don't know why I picked that name, but it was like, bing, that's her name. So, like when the thought process of writing happens, it's not like Gina was her name. And it wouldn't have been a name I picked, but I did. She, I always say she is me and I am her. It's a very, I can't explain it to you, but it's a very weird connection that I have with her. And some of the things that happen in the book that are truly fiction, I feel. And, you read your book several times. Oh, I mean, I must have read book one and book two about 75 times. And, your editor wants you to read it. And so it gets to the point where you can probably, I could read the lines if it was, a show. I could do the lines, no problem. But there are certain things that happen to her that when I read it, I get very emotional. Like I'm in her living it, even though I wrote it. it's a very weird it's a very, very weird thing. I'm very much in touch with her. And yes, she is living some of the things that are true to me.
Okay. I always like to know because do you write like organically or do you have an outline?
Organically, 100%.
Just organically. And that's
Yeah.
so interesting because I cannot do anything without a complete, I call it a recipe,
Hmm.
a complete total outline. Everything is outlined. I could never, I wish I could write organically, but I don't. Do you have a favorite time of day that you like to write?
Yes. I love writing in the afternoons,
Okay,
depending on what my day is, because I have to take mom to she moved down here, so she doesn't drive. So it's like tomorrow I have a doctor's appointment. So, you know, life kind of impedes in that. And but usually late afternoons, whatever I'm doing, I'm usually home by 4 o'clock. And then I sit at the computer and I write. Like right now, I'm doing the final edits for book three. It's going to be out July, August. The book cover is done. I know she's waiting for my back blurb to do,
great book
and
covers.
they're all gonna look alike, but there's different elements of the story on the covers. So she's very good. She's done hundreds, if not thousands, of book covers. Um, so I like to do late afternoon and into the evening because all the noise of the day has gone and I can just sit, other than taking my dog out, I could just sit. And I tell my husband, don't talk to me if he wants to watch TV. Don't talk to me. Make it lower. Um, and usually because I do cook and I'm a good cook and I'm a good baker. I mean, my background. So he expects dinner every night. So I try to get that done. And I say to him, you got what you need. Now leave me alone. So yeah, I find it's very freeing that whatever happened during the day is over with. So now I can concentrate on what I need to do.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's funny how we're different that way. I'm outline, you're organic, and you're late afternoon, and I get down to things after 10 o'clock at night, and I go till like 1 or 2 in the morning. I just like the
Hmm.
solitude of the night.
I
Uh,
agree 100%.
Yep, and that's when I'm the best.
Hmm.
It's always been that way. I love the night. Another interesting thing. I've written two books, and there's one line that stands out in my novel about the tortoise that I loved. I don't know where the line came from. Do you have like a favorite line that you kind of you're really proud you wrote that?
There's a couple of winners. Like even my editor said, "Oh my God, this is great." Um, some of them involve sex scenes, so I can't go into that. But when they're at Glen Island Casino and she's in a band with her cousin, and they want to play there really badly. And back in the day, there was one guy who was in control of the whole club scene. Like he booked you. And so they were there because so I fictionalized she was friends with a band. So it's a little bit, is it biographical? Is it fictional? I don't know. And they got upset. Her cousin said they were hoping that the guy who was the agent was there. And they're all dressed up rock and roll, and she's wearing a white crocheted dress. And that's why you will see her on every cover with a white crocheted dress. Um,
Yes, yes, yes.
and so her cousin says, guess
Yeah.
what? The band that's playing the second, they're from Canada. And he goes, that's band jumping. And they're like, yeah, yeah, like they're pissed off. And they come up on stage and I describe him And she falls madly in love with him from the first sight she sees him. Because her cousin's like, you're the lead singer of a band, you can have any guy you want, and you don't want anybody. And she's because I haven't met him yet. She keeps saying, I haven't met him, haven't met him, haven't met him. And then she sees this guy and she's like, oh my God. And I do explain a certain feeling she has. I don't want to explain it. But her cousin, when he describes their first meeting, because when he actually meets her, it was, bam. It was bam. So he said it's like somebody sprinkled fairy dust on them and from the first time they met. And he kind of says it in throughout the books and he's like it was electric, it was like fairy dust. And they've never stopped from that first night. So that's probably my first line. And I think I'm thinking book three and book four. There's a couple of other lines that she'll throw at certain people, and they're pretty good.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I can't remember them. But they're in the later books. But to me, the fairy dust thing, because he always goes back to it, like well, somebody sprinkled fairy dust on those two because they've been in love from the first moment.
Okay. Okay. Beth, I just want to go off topic. I kind of forewarned you. I always like to go off topic. I have a cute question to ask. Um,
Sure.
you can give one, two, three answers, whatever. There's no rules. So here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
Um, well, okay, I'm gonna put out a little bit. I would say the person who I like to spend a day with for various reasons would be Chad Kruger from Nickelback because he is a prolific songwriter and I am a big Nickelback fan. So, yes, I would love to spend the day with him, pick his brain and whatever. And I mean whatever. I think it would be yeah, I would love that.
Okay, great answer. Unique. Nobody's
Yeah.
ever said that before. I've done 380 of these, so that's unique.
Yes.
And you're unique, so there you go.
Thank you.
One more quick question. I always like this too. Do you have some favorite movies?
Um yes, and they're favorite movies because they remind me of family. And there's a couple. We like comedies. Well, I will start out by saying I am a big fan of the Alien franchise. I love the first movie and I love the franchise, so I'm a big fan of that. But there are certain movies that remind me of my brother, my father's, and I just saw one, I just saw it. Hot Tub Time Machine, one and two. My brother would watch that, I mean, almost every day. And it reminds me of him, and it's stupid funny, but it's funny. Um, and then my father used to love like Rodney Dangerfield's movies that he did. And my father would sit there and laugh. So yeah, those are funny. And I think I mean, and then there are things like I love my husband loves horror. I hate it. And then there are movies like Inception and Shutter Island, things that are make you think. And I love those kind of movies. I've put a ban though on watching movies because I don't, as I'm writing, because I'm sitting in my dining room writing, I don't want a storyline to get into my head.
Ah, ah, interesting.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so I I'm either listening to the news or I'll tell my husband put Snapped on because it's always about women killing their husbands, stupid. Or American Greed because it's stuff, it's in the background, it's real, it doesn't affect me. I can listen to it. But yeah, like my mother and daughter said, "Oh, you got to watch this movie called Nona." And I'm like, when I finish writing, I'll watch it. But
That is that Staten Island thing?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
my wife saw that. She loved it, and now she's going to drag me to Staten Island to go out to that restaurant.
Yeah, so my mother and daughter said my mother said, "Oh my God, you gotta watch it. It's gonna make you cry." And I said, "I don't know if I want to watch a movie that's gonna make me cry right now, Mom." And my daughter keeps saying, You gotta watch it, Mom. It's like our family. You gotta watch it." And I said, "I will watch it, but not right now." And they're very big, because we used to watch the Housewives franchise. So they'll say, did you watch?" I said, "No, I'm not watching any of it. I can't. I don't want to." So, and I used to have a book club here, and I had it. I've lived here 7 years, probably 6 years, and I did it through COVID, and it got to the point where I would say to the ladies, my house is great. I don't have kids. My husband goes upstairs. My house is perfect for it. But it got to the point where I would say to the ladies, pick whatever book. You can come here. I can't read it because they were the ones who also, not all of them, but my good friends, who were having a pajama party on Friday, um, kept telling me, keep writing, don't. And they got to see like the first iterations of the books. And they just said to me, keep writing. And they understood why I couldn't read the books anymore. So then, like the book club disbanded, and it was a great relief for me. Um, so yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, Back to work. Um, who would you recommend? Perfection Saga. Uh, who would you recommend? Uh, these series to in particular.
Okay, well, it is a romance, and it's a very deep romance, I will
Mhm.
say that. Um, it's the term we use is spicy or smutty because there is sexual content, so please don't give it to your 14-year-old daughter. It's 18 and up. Um, Supposedly my demographic was supposed to be the 45 and up. And as I told you, I noticed that the younger demographic seems to have latched onto it via threads and X. So when book three comes out, um, I need to change my keywords there. I would say it's open for every woman of any age if you love a really good love story. And in the love story, there are bad things that happen because I can't make it good all the time. I have to add a little drama, a little plot twists, um, a little sexual content. So and then there's the rock and roll music, which is deep rooted into the books. So I say maybe not an 18-year-old, but hey, if you're 24, 25, want to know about the music scene from 70s, 80s and on, you're going to love it. And the middle-aged woman who wants to read a and they do, I know they do, they want to read the spicy, sexy books, then yeah, it's for all of them.
Okay. You said something really funny about a middle-aged woman, and wanting to
And
read
I
that.
am one, so I'm just going to say
Yeah,
that.
well, yeah, and it reminds me in my early journalism days, real fast. I interviewed Emily Cook. She was 102, going on 103, and I interviewed her, and I brought her a couple of bottles of wine. As a little, she liked to drink a little glass of wine at night. And she lived and she had her own little apartment in a complex thing, 102.
Hmm.
And I said, I said to her on the air, when we're done, I'm happy to bring the bottle of wine, up to your room. And she said to me on air, and I was kind of embarrassed. She said, "Do you want to come back to my room with me?" So
Oh,
I said, just to bring you wine. And she
yeah.
looked at me and she
Let's.
said, just because I'm 102, don't think I don't think about those things. And it was like this chair slapped me in the face.
Yeah. Well,
Snap out of it.
yeah.
Wow.
Women do, and I found it in the book club that the dirtier, the better. And
Interesting. I
and the
like
way
that.
I look at it, I write my sex scenes. There's no pretending on what they're doing, but I do it in a way. There are words women don't want to read. I don't use them. There's no mistaking what they're doing, but I do it in a way that women want to read it.
Okay. Okay. I have another burning question to ask you while we still have time. Um, what made you want to self-publish?
Okay. Real easy. The First of all, as a first-time writer, the publishing companies are not going to look at you. And you can hire a literary agent, and if that literary agent doesn't like your book, it isn't even going to the publishing company. So I said, and I had a sister-in-law who tried that. And the literary agent said, no, nobody's going to read your book. So I said, no, I have a good book. I have a good story. And I said, I don't want to share it with a publishing company either. I don't want to be told this. I don't want to be told that. I want to own everything. That was my way into self-publishing, is that I wanted to own everything. I wanted to be in control of my story. And that's why I went the self-publishing route. And I hear people who say, "Oh, I'm going to load my book up on Amazon," and that's fine, but they don't understand the nuances of self-publishing, of having an editor. Like I just finished my second round of edits, and she gave me a list of words that I said a few times that I need to change. But she kept the book flowing, and there were lines that she was like, we should take these out. And I looked at them and I was like 50-50 on it. And I said, you know what? She knows better. And when I looked at it, it's like, yeah. So you need that good editor. You need the proofreader. You you if you're doing it to be legit. Okay, if
Right.
this is your career and you want your books to be present out there and become something, then you do it that way.
Mhm.
If you don't care and you're like, oh, well, I published a book, great, then do it that way.
Yeah.
Um, we want to do it because we want people to see it and read it, and we want it to be popular. And that's different. So, yeah, self-publishing is the way to go.
Agreed. Agreed. By the way, your editor uses autocrit because autocrit tells you if you're using the word too much. By the
Yeah,
way, this is a good
okay.
segue.
I've got the list right
Yeah.
here,
Yep. Yep. It's
and
autocrit.
I've done all of the, comment reviews, and I'll be done with this by tonight. And I'm going to say to her, some words there's no replacement for, so it's going to be that word.
Okay. All right, Leah. We have you have a hard
Or yeah.
yeah. So I'm gonna stop because we have more, which means you have to come back. And
I'm gonna come back, Calvin. Just send me,
yep, I'd love you
tell
to
me
come
when
back
you want
and
me.
to talk about this. I want to talk about, your songs, your music that you infiltrate into this. I think that's such a unique
Yeah.
thing.
Just just invite me and we'll
Yep,
figure out a date.
yep. So, Beth, uh, quoting an old Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry movie, you
Hmm.
made my day, and you did because we spent the day together
Yes.
before and during and so forth. So I'm inviting you to come back. This was great, wonderful, illuminating for me, and you're so real, and I love that.
Thank
Real.
you.
You're so real. And again, the grease trucks, that was the clincher when
There
you
you
told me
go.
that.
We got that. We got
Oh,
that. And we got the Jewish chili, what, Harry's?
yeah, Harold's, yeah, we got
We
that.
got
So
that.
we are bonded. I'm just going to stop recording. Don't leave. We're going to do a 30-second wrap. Uh, thank you, Beth. Thank you.
Thank you.